All right, Mandentis Entertainment back for episode 2 of the currently unnamed comic podcast. I'm Ryan, and I'm with,
John.
and today we're going to be talking about some some Marvel, some DC, some indie, some manga, a little bit of TV news too. Not a ton, but some stuff came up. And as with last episode, a spoiler warning here at the beginning. We will
Yes,
we will
very
be
much so.
certainly talking about spoilers through this.
Oh yeah.
Um, we have no filter. So even if we tried, we'd probably fail. So why don't we just jump right into it with Marvel? As we mentioned last time, neither of us really read a ton of Marvel. Were you able to catch up on King in Black?
I haven't. I definitely could have, but I haven't because I've been more focused on future state and manga stuff. So I'm in about the same position. Have you read issue 3?
Yeah, I read issue 3, and I read the Gwenom versus Carnage book, and I believe that. And I read Black Cat too. So those are the three King in Black books that I've read so far. Gwenom versus Carnage was pretty cool, but it was really just a setup book for Gwenom versus Carnage 2. But it was nice to see Spider Gwen back after her series got canceled. Um, Black Cat 2 was pretty cool. She starts her heist, or she completes the heist to save Doctor Strange from Null's clutches,
That's pretty
because
cool.
obviously Doctor Strange is like ridiculously powerful, so he's probably pretty helpful in fighting a symbiote god.
Get the Sorcerer Supreme to deal with the Symbiote Supreme.
Of
I
course,
know what I said and I don't regret it.
I like that symbiote supreme. That's probably gonna be some sort of Doctor Strange multiverse book
Oh,
where
it's gonna happen.
he's gonna get like the Venom symbiote, and it's gonna be symbiote supreme.
If
I,
it doesn't already exist.
time to get a job at Marvel so we can write that up.
Let's
Uh,
do it.
and then we had King of Black 3, which was wicked cool. We had Thor show up, which is a little contradictory to the actual Thor run currently going on, which is in the middle of a fairly awesome arc in and of itself. But we have Thor show up, and he's able to actually fight Null, because he's one of those beings that's just especially currently ridiculously powerful.
Oh yeah.
And then towards the end, Silver Surfer Black shows up. So
The plot thickens.
the plot thickens, and it also adds some more prior reading, which I haven't read Silver Surfer Black. Wasn't a super huge
Wasn't
fan of the art.
wasn't Silver Surfer Black more or less a prerequisite for the Thor run that's currently going on?
If it was, I didn't notice, because I'm up to date on Thor, and it was self contained enough.
Yeah.
Um, Probably because it was Kate's taking over for Aaron after Aaron's sort of uh, huge.
Aaron did.
Yeah, he did his huge arc with War of the Realms, and then Kate's picked up Thor afterwards. So it was sort of like a soft reset point where you could just kind of hop on, and it wasn't super convoluted or difficult to understand what was happening. Thor's king now. Sif is um, the new uh, manager of the Bifrost, stuff like that. But yeah, Marvel's doing some cool stuff. I'm enjoying it. They also announced they're gonna be reprinting a ton of the old material. I mean, like old, like Amazing Fantasy 15 old.
Oh, that's cool. Just like some facsimile stuff.
No, so they're doing a run for kids, where how Spider Gwen, we saw those like really small graphic novel versions of the comics, where I was like, it's sort of weird that they made them this small, and they also printed them in normal size.
Yes, yes.
Um, Apparently they're going to be doing that for a lot of their older comic books, which is pretty cool. They showed off the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1. So it's a way for younger readers who have tiny hands to be able to read the old origins of all these characters that now we're almost 60 years out from. We're coming up on the Fantastic Four's 60th anniversary
That's
really soon.
insane.
So, and a lot of that material, even though you feel like it should be something that is super easy to get and is always in print, actually isn't for a lot of that stuff. The more I've learned about collected editions, the more I've learned that some of that older stuff isn't as readily available as it should be.
And also, I think with the advent of with the digital marketplace, I think for a lot of the older stuff, I think at least for the big two, um, there might be less of a focus in reprinting the older stuff in collected editions because you can just hop on either of their streaming services and likely find it there.
Yeah, or when they focus on it, they've been, especially DC has sort of doubled down on their Omni lines without reprinting stuff in a less expensive format. Like there's like 8 volumes of Golden Age Superman Omnis, but good luck trying
Yeah,
to find that in like a trade paperback for $20. You know that?
exactly. Like omnibuses are inherently well worth the money. Like if you break it down by like page count and issue count, but omnibuses are also extremely expensive, and most people can't just you know drop uh, that
Yeah,
kind of money. Like if I were
anywhere
to
from
collect,
like even some of the shorter ones, I believe, like the Aquaman one that I was reading the other day, the Jeff Johns Aquaman, that's 704 pages. It's issues 0 through 23, and then his 2 villain issues. And you can get it on discount for like $44 before shipping, which is a
yeah,
pretty
they
good
recent
price. That's about $2 an issue, a little less than $2 an issue. That's really good when you break it down. But even like a $44 upfront investment in something is a lot to ask, especially when people are, generally speaking, they have weekly pulls of anywhere from like 1 to 10 books, varying on
exactly,
what
yeah.
time we're in. Like in the DC Future State time, I'm buying 8 books a week at least because I'm just buying everything that DC's putting out. So
Yeah, and
it's
the future state books are just and we'll touch upon this a little later once we get into it, but the future state books themselves are just pricier because they're thicker and there's more stuff in them.
yep.
So smaller lists end up costing more.
Yeah, so on top of that, asking people, the only way for you to get 50s Batman is to buy I think it's like $80 if you buy them at this 40% off that some of these sites are giving you. If you buy them in person, you're paying like 100 to $125, no discount, which is even more. And it doesn't, if you're paying full price for most Omnis, you're not getting your value. But when you buy them online for their discount price, you're getting your value. But when you tack that on top of stuff, other things that you're buying in the comic book world, it gets really expensive. So I'm glad that Marvel is printing this old material, some of which is like really good. Like it's like from the 60s, so it's a little campy, and they do that really annoying thing where they like repeat themselves at the beginning of every issue where they talk about how X superhero group got their powers or who they are, which is
Yeah,
frustrating.
I've recently been reading some Golden Age action comics, and pretty much every single issue opens up with the faster than a speeding bullet, that little speech they always give about Superman, but it's every single issue. But I guess in their defense, binge reading definitely was not a thought in 1938 to 1939, and it probably wasn't a thought in 1962 or one either.
Well, so the philosophy behind why they do that, because I was reading the Frank Miller Daredevil stuff, and every single issue starts with he was blinded by radioactive blah blah blah. He can't see, but his senses are whatever. He is the man without fear, Daredevil, and it's like a whole full page spread. But the reasoning that they did that is because they sort of function on the philosophy any comic back then, which is a philosophy that is sort of a bummer they don't really focus on now, is any given comic book could be someone's first comic book that they ever read. Someone could pick up a random Daredevil issue and just be like, "Oh, this cover looks cool. Maybe this is where I'll start." So they want to give like a brief explanation of what's happening. And
I
that's
like that.
I like
That's
the concept, but when you start marathoning all that stuff, it gets really arduous.
Yeah, but I mean, you just see the big block below the title, and you can just skip it because you pretty much know what it's gonna be.
Yep. Once you get used to it, it's all right. But it in that sort of consciousness that some people aren't gonna be able, like, I don't, like, I want to read Strange Academy. Um, but and I believe the trade comes out like next week or something, so it's not like that big a deal. But I wanted to read it when issue 3 came out, but I I knew that there was no point in starting at issue 3 if I couldn't get issue 1, and issue 1's like $80.
Oh my god, why?
So
Is
I
it a
don't,
first appearance of someone?
I'm not sure. I didn't look too deeply into it. Um, but
It's because a big thing now too is again mostly from the big two. Uh, Comics are written for trades, so you can't really jump in the middle of a run like you could have before.
yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, oh, issue 3, like I'll just wait for the trade with the first 6 issues to come out and then I'll pick up issue 7. And like that would be, unfortunately, that's sort of how it has to work. Cuz I don't like the trade paperbacks. I'm a little snobbish. I think they look kind of goofy on the shelf, especially when you have a bunch of bigger books, the hardcovers,
Yep.
but aside from that, it's just a little frustrating that like picking up any random comic book isn't a great starting point. And it's kind of a gate for new people to come into the hobby too. One of
Yeah.
our friends was like, "Where should I start reading if I like Iron Man?" And I was like, "I don't know. There's a new one coming up, so you're kind of lucky. There's a number one coming out, but other than that, you sort of have to start at the beginning of any given run for any given character." And then we had to,
Yeah.
for DC, we told him to just start with New 52, Justice League, which I
It's
think
a
anyone who's interested in DC should read because it's a nice introduction. But, you
it
know,
is a nice introduction.
he's like, "Where should I start?" And we're like, "Well, this thing came out 10 years ago. You should check it out and go
Yeah.
from there." But anyway, we were talking about Marvel. They're doing some good stuff. Uh,
I'm really intrigued with what they're coming out with in either March or April. In the aftermath of King in Black, the whole Heroes Reborn thing.
yeah, and they did that once previously. Let me look it up real quick so that we can have a little more information. Um,
Yeah, from what I could gather, people didn't really like it. Um, they weren't a fan of what Marvel did with with their heroes and such.
yeah, so I'm not exactly sure like what the deal was. So what the original Heroes Reborn thing was in the mid 90s, and Marvel for 1 year basically just outsourced all of its famous comic books to uh, Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld to do, and apparently that was it was the Avengers, Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, and Hulk were the ones that got redone.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that um, I'm
Like,
assuming that
are
this
they?
is
I'm reading a description for Avengers 44, which concludes the upcoming Enter the Phoenix arc. Uh, Phoenix Force, blah blah blah, finds a new host. But then it's Heroes Reborn is mentioning how it's a reality where like the Avengers were never formed. Thor is an alcoholic. Captain America is still trapped in ice. So, are they like, are they New 52ing sort of?
I'm not sure, and I'm pretty interested in finding out what they're gonna do.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on because again, the first one is a little infamous amongst fans. So the fact that they're willing to revisit on one of the more controversial events is definitely interesting, and it's certainly something to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
And
and I mean,
we will be talking about it when it comes out.
of yeah, for sure. I will definitely be putting the new Heroes Reborn stuff so like on my list because I mean the not the concept art but the
Like the little spread.
yeah the like advertisement spread that they put out, the hype page, like the
Oh
art
yeah,
was
because
really
it's
good.
the Justice League. I mean the Squadron Supreme. They're the heroes now.
Yep, and it looked like the art was really good. So I don't know, like
Yeah, I like Jason Aaron as a writer. So
yeah, I mean I read a bunch of his Thor stuff and I really enjoyed it. I haven't gotten to read a lot of his other stuff, but
I read
he's a
I've
writer
been
that
reading his
generally has good
Avengers.
reviews.
Yeah, I've been reading his Avengers run. It's been good.
His Avengers run I wasn't super high on, but I also didn't push super far into it. I only got like 4 or 5 issues in, so that's something. But I mean, he's a good writer, so hopefully he doesn't flop Heroes Reborn. And like I said, I think I can't remember who the artist is. The art's good. It looks like some
Ed McGuinness.
is it McGinnis? Yeah,
Yep.
good stuff. So I'm excited to for that. Um, and a lot of just what's gonna come out of King in Black. Donny Cates is ending his Venom run at issue 200 in April, I believe, and
Yes.
and he's like, I'm done. Like Venom 200 is the last time I'm writing Venom ever.
Yep. He said multiple times on Twitter, this is definitively his conclusion with Venom. It's like how Last Night on Earth was Scott Snyder's Batman swan song. This is it. They're done.
Yeah, and that is important because it basically means that his plate is open for another Marvel book. And
exactly, which is exciting to think about just in itself.
who he's anyone he writes, I'd be pretty interested in. Of course, I'd like to see him move over to something like Amazing Spider-Man. I have been pretty vocal about how much I'm not interested in Nick Spencer's run,
Yeah.
which is a bummer because it's like 55 issues straight of Spider-Man that I just really don't want to read. And I gave it its fair shake. I read through the end of Hunted.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about that years ago now, and just
yeah, it was just like, so it would be wicked cool to see him on Spider-Man. Maybe move Nick Spencer to something else. I don't doubt that he's a good writer because the bones are there for good stuff, but I don't know. I just wasn't a fan.
yeah, it's tough seeing like a writer is objectively good or objectively bad because some people are just better at certain characters than others.
Yeah.
You know?
They're certainly. Like Brian Michael Bendis is a good writer, but
yeah,
he's
also
not
wrote the best Superman writer. Yeah.
All right.
So here's a corner that I don't really touch at all. What's going on in the indie world?
So not much since the last time we talked. I believe Crossover 3 came out since the last time we talked.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty good book. Crossing
I have it on my shelf. I'll get to reading it at some point.
Yeah, that one's been a pretty crazy ride. I've been enjoying that one a lot. Donny Cates bringing in some characters from other works of his, for sure, that we know of, and he said that things from other publishers should be showing up in Crossover, so I'm interested to see what shows up there. Unfortunately, I didn't read the Department of Truth that came out this week. I didn't have time before this. I was catching up on my stack of Future State.
Hey, same.
But so far, that's been pretty good. Once in Future still continues to be good, but on the indie front, not a lot happening. Two things: Nocterra by Scott Snyder and Tony S. Daniel, I believe, comes out soon. And that looks pretty interesting. I don't know the full details. Publisher? I think they're self-publishing.
Ooh.
And then Boom Studios and Keanu Reeves, finally fully announced their book that's coming out, a 12-issue maxi series called Berserker with no vowels in the word.
Oh, so like just like BRSRKR?
Yeah, except it's a Z instead of an S.
Alright.
And I think there's like 7 R's in it. But it's Keanu Reeves writing. The art looks pretty good. I can't remember who the artist is. Forgive me. But the art looks really good. Other than that, not a lot going on indie-wise that I've been paying attention to. Who was it?
Matt Kint.
Okay. Well, I've never heard of him, but
I also haven't, but you know what?
Promotional art they showed
this page looks pretty cool.
Yeah. It looks cool. It's a 12-issue series. For indie stuff, I'm always way more inclined to continue reading it if it's not an ongoing. And I know that's like sort of dumb because I read a ton of ongoings from the big 2. But like, I don't know, certain stories feel like they don't need to be more than X number of issues. Like Something is Killing the Children. I got to issue 3 and I was like, if this ends in like 2 or 3 issues, this will probably be one of the best things I've read. And now it's on issue 14 and I just don't feel the need to keep reading it, even though people say it's great. I don't know. How do you feel about stuff like that?
See, it's tough. I feel the same way. Like a story shouldn't overstay its welcome. And but then again, I'm used to reading, things like Naruto and One Piece, which have been a consistent run for 20 plus years. Um, but I do agree with what you say. Maxi series are cool because I think 12 issues is enough time to give a story a definitive beginning, middle, and end, especially if it's not part of the big two, because that means they're not going to have, ex editorial and corporate breathing down their neck on what they can and can't do regarding certain characters and things like that. Um,
I feel like I'm a big fan of the mini maxi series format for indie books specifically because I don't want, and Donny Cates actually kind of references this in Crossover 3. Um, Sometimes indie books just get canceled after like X number of issues and they don't have like a satisfying conclusion because they just end on like issue 11 or whatever.
yeah, because they
Whereas,
just weren't selling and they decided to, plug it right there or whatever.
yeah, whereas there's certain series like Stumptown was released in like seasons, quote unquote. I don't know how to say it exactly, but basically they would put out like one story and then they wouldn't put out any more until the next story was done and then they would put it out. So it was like a bunch of like mini series as opposed to
I
like
could
an
be wrong, but I
ongoing.
think Lock and Key did the same thing.
Yes, Lock and Key was split into a bunch of different like all the basically all the trades are different stories that were released at different times. It wasn't like an ongoing, as far as I know. Also,
Mm.
but yeah, not a lot going on in indie stuff. Um, you, I was remiss. I didn't catch up on any of this beforehand for the most part, especially the stuff that came out Sunday. But manga, what's going on? What's going on there? We have some stuff to talk about.
Yes, manga. We got pretty much, I guess, for the moment, the manga section will mostly be a Shonen Jump section because that's what we read mostly. Uh, so this was cool this week because we got a new series, The Elusive Samurai from Yusei Matsui, and he is the creator of Assassination Classroom, which hilarious and heartfelt. If you hadn't read it, I firmly give a suggestion.
I haven't read it, but I
Um,
watched the anime. It was phenomenal.
yeah, it was great. So he's back with The Elusive Samurai, which is a historical comedy action, sort of. I don't know. The dialogue was a little all over the place. It was a little chaotic. Um, Forgive me with not knowing uh, Japanese historical names, but it is
Fair.
about a young shogunate.
Okay.
I will read I'll read Viz's blog here. This is the blog from Viz Media, not me. Honor, Betrayal, Innocence Cut Short, a new samurai manga by Yusei Matsui, the creator of Assassination Classroom. And long story short, it's about this heir to a Japanese family that instead of getting the traditional honor on the battlefield, he runs away. He's known for his being skilled at running and being elusive, and hence the name, and hiding and such. The art is really good. It's a little more I don't want to say in depth compared to Assassination Classroom, given that the main protagonist was a circle and tentacles.
Yeah.
But the details in the art is a lot.
More fine.
Yeah,
More.
it's a lot more fine tuned than his previous work. Definitely showing an improvement in the art style. It being a historical series, you can say we know where it's going to end. Well, yes, we do, but it's about the journey, not the destination,
Yeah.
as always. And it's only one chapter out, so I can't talk too much about it. But I read the entire magazine every week, so of course I'm going to stick with it. And if in a few weeks' time it looks like it's going to be stick around and become the next big one, we'll be sure to say it.
For
We have
sure.
another series coming out this coming Sunday called I Tell C.
All right.
Uh,
What's that about? What's going on there?
what's going on there? It's a detective series,
Okay.
and I'm trying to bring up the author's name right now because this one's a newcomer.
Oh, a
This
new author entirely.
new author, yep, uh, to the ranks.
That's cool when new authors show up.
It
Because, I
is.
mean, like, that doesn't guarantee that they're good or anything, but it's cool to
It
have
doesn't, and
new talent.
especially in Shonen Jump, because Shonen Jump is basically like they are the Marvel slash DC of Japan. They are considered the pinnacle. Unfortunately, with that, they also have very high expectations, and they're a little notorious in axing series that aren't big successes right out of the gate, which I think is a little unfair. I've read a lot of series from Shonen Jump that ended after around 20 chapters, and I think could have thrived pretty well in were they published in a different magazine.
Rest in peace, Robot Laser Beam.
That's an interesting point too.
Because that got to 63 chapters, and I fucking loved it, and then, like, the 63rd chapter just, like, ended an arc, and then ended
Yep.
the series all at once, and I was like, come on, Jump.
And also too, the author of Robot Laser Beam, Tadayoshi Fujimaki, I'm sorry, was known for Kuroko's Basketball, which is a pretty big hit both in the West and in Japan. So, just because you had a successful series before doesn't particularly guarantee you safety from the axe of Shonen Jump. If you don't sell, you don't sell.
Which, in that specific case, was such a huge bummer.
Yeah, even I liked it, and
Yeah,
I'm not a huge sports person.
I find myself enjoying those sort of, they're basically shonen battle series, but they're not fighting, they're playing sports. Those
Yeah.
sports battle series are always, I found that that's a niche that I enjoy a lot. Those sort of off-color shonen battle style series, and I especially like that one because I enjoy golf, and
All right, so I
obviously,
finally picked it up. My apologies
all right,
for
what do we
the
got?
delay. All right, I Tell C comes from the creator Kazusa Inaoka, whose previous work was the 2018 series Kimi wo Shinrya Kuseo, whatever that means. So it's not a new author. I'm sorry. And we also have two more series coming up for the next 2 weeks, rounding out the new run of Shonen Jump titles. We got Witch Watch coming out on February 8th from Kenta Shinohara, who is the creator of Astra Lost in Space, as well as Sket Dance. Sket Dance, the manga never came over to the West to my knowledge, but it did have an anime for a little bit, so Western fans may be familiar with that.
Okay.
And the last one we have, Clones Ball Parade, set for February 15th. This is new talent. Yuki Kamada and artist Ashibi Fukui. The artist has a couple of things they've done, including 2020's Slime and Dragons. Haven't heard of that.
No, me neither.
But it's a baseball series,
Okay.
which is a little interesting since it's Jump's first sports title in a while since Haikyuu ended. But
yeah,
that's about all we have going on the manga end for now. Got some new stuff coming, and the heavy hitters continue to be heavy hitters.
How about Boruto? That came out last week.
How about Boruto? Is Kishimoto gonna do it?
I haven't read the most recent chapter yet. Unfortunately, it totally slipped my mind. I got tunnel vision for Dragon Ball.
Naruto's days may be numbered.
Is he finally? Yeah, that was always that's been the implication for the last few months, but
Yep, but it's actually setting in now. Naruto, his terms where his body feels like lead. He passes out, and the battle is over. They manage to suppress Momoshiki into Boruto, so he's no longer rampaging. But Sasuke notices that Naruto's not feeling too good, Mr. Stark. Good. He's not looking good, and that's where the chapter ended. So we'll have to see. And
I'll have to catch
how about Dragon Ball Super? We got
Dragon Ball got me hype. I'm so excited, even though Toyotaro has shown that he can make a mess of a good thing as many times as possible in any chapters. But I don't know, Dragon Ball's just that series that's always gonna get me hype. You see Goku using Ultra Instinct against Whis, and everyone is like, well, where's he gonna go from here? Like, what's he gonna do? And then Whis is like, well, you still can't even fucking touch me, so there's clearly more heights to reach. And then
that's how I feel about series about blonde ninjas who have Ruto in their names. I'm always going to be excited for him.
Right? And then we have Vegeta potentially finally, you know.
That was the highlight to me.
Me too.
I loved that dialogue. Well, I'm just gonna go practice some things. If you see anything that you like, feel free to steal it.
Yeah, that was just that whole 2 pages made because so last arc Vegeta got that cool spirit fission thing, which is a fairly unique thing in Dragon Ball. We've seen people like absorb people or split into different entities a bunch of different times. It's sort of a mainstay of the series, but sort of having someone in the cast who can just be like, nah, and just sort of turn it off was cool. But so far, for most of the series, Vegeta, even though every once in a while he's stronger than Goku, there's certain instances where he does things that Goku can't. For the most part, every transformation and every sort of milestone that he reaches is in some way also done by Goku. The only one so far that they don't share is Goku has Kaioken and Ultra Instinct, and then Vegeta in the anime only has the Super Saiyan Blue evolution form where he gets all sparkly and big.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is basically
slightly darker hair.
Yeah, Super Saiyan Blue 2 or Super Saiyan Blue Grade 3 or whatever you want to call it because it looks like Super Vegeta.
What's the official name of that?
It's Super Saiyan Blue evolution.
All right, that's not terrible.
That's what it is in Dokkan Battle at least, and I think that's one of the only official products that he's named in because they don't name him in the anime. Obviously, he just his hair just gets darker. He gets pupils and he sparkles.
Yeah,
which it's a good aesthetic, and I liked it a lot. But having him sort of get probably some sort of transformation or power up sort of unrelated to his Saiyan lineage will be cool, especially since it seems like it will be drastically different from the Ultra Instinct that Goku has. And I like that they acknowledge that even though they sort of followed the same path for a while, they're two very different people. And so Ultra Instinct just doesn't fit Vegeta's style. It's just not who he is. So he's getting this new form, and I'm very excited to see where that takes us.
Me too. I haven't been legitimately excited for Dragon Ball in a few years, actually. But I'm going to be cautiously optimistic because I was excited for the beginning of the Moro arc as well. And then by the end of it, I was no longer excited.
It's like, why isn't this over?
Exactly. So I'm hoping this granola arc, as I'm going to call it, until otherwise stated.
Listen, man, I'm always here for those puns. I know one of our friends is not here for the puns. I'm very here for the puns.
Listen, it's Dragon Ball. You have to be here for the puns.
Yeah. Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest. I started playing that Dragon Quest game, and like all the monster names are puns too. So
fantastic.
If you're involved with Toriyama, you have a deep relationship with puns, and you're just gonna have to get over it. But that's about it for manga. A little bit of TV news coming out of DC. First, very very short one. We have a release date for the Snyder Cut.
Yes, March 18th, 2021.
Just a little over a month and a half away, which is... Listen, I'm not going into it expecting it to blow my mind or change my life or do anything, but I'm cautiously optimistic that this is at least going to be a better Justice League experience. Just from the length, 4 hours feels like... I think it's 4 to 5 hours, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think it's slightly over 4.
Yeah, and I feel like that's enough time to flesh out a Justice League, right? Like, it's the Justice League. Just like,
and you know what?
Just like Avengers took 2 movies to do the Thanos. It took 10 years to do the Thanos stuff, but they even made sure to split the Thanos stuff into 2 movies. Oh, excuse me, that was gross.
And plus, like, regardless of how you feel about like Zack Snyder or his movies, or DC movies in general, the fact that this is happening at all is insane because this was 99% fan demand.
Yeah.
That made this happen.
It's crazy. It's also, I just think, again, regardless of what you think of Zack Snyder or the DC movies, the fact that the director changed mid-production clearly made the first iteration a jumbled mess. So having like the original vision will probably at least make a little more sense, and at the very least, it'll
be a little more coherent, if nothing else.
And from the trailers, thank God we saw Darkseid he's in there, and
And they really want you to know that Darkseid is. They're
That
selling a bunch of merch with it now too. It's great.
yeah,
I need to get that shirt.
that's a great line. The Mr. Miracle
Yep.
series is sort of ingrained. Dark side is and stand into my brain, but
Thank you, Tom King.
yeah, right. He's we talked about our, authors hitting and missing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably the biggest example of that. But yeah, Darkseid is in the movie, and I thought that that was one of the biggest sort of flaws in Justice League was they were coming together to fight this threat, and the threat was Steppenwolf. Who the fuck cares about Steppenwolf?
Exactly.
Like,
Half
in the New 52, Steppenwolf got relegated to the Earth 2 line. And even then, he wasn't even their final big problem. Like,
yeah.
so,
People hear Steppenwolf, they think the band. Is all I'm gonna say about that.
yeah. All right. Other than that, we got Titans news.
Yep, we got Tim Drake has been cast. The third Robin, to many the favorite Robin.
He's my favorite Robin for sure. I
We-
love Tim Drake, and I'm super excited to see him show up. I think it's a little weird that sort of the time span for Titans seems really tight, but there's 3 Robins already. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's
Maybe
3 Robin. Yeah,
maybe they're introduced. I mean, speculation, complete speculation. Maybe Tim Drake is being introduced, and he's going to become Robin. Maybe he won't be introduced as Robin. You know what I mean? That would be nice.
But yes, we have Jay Lycurgo. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. Jay Lycurgo has been cast as Tim Drake.
Yeah, look, I'm just excited. Not only that Tim Drake is going to be in the show and that Tim Drake is getting some love because he's generally the forgotten Robin.
Yeah, that's for sure.
He fell into
because everyone else has kind of like grown into their own, and Damian Wayne just has other aspects of his character that kind of like shoves him to remain in the limelight.
Yeah, Damian Wayne has been Robin for years now, and he's gonna continue to be Robin because Tim Drake grew out of the role of Robin, but they haven't done anything.
They haven't really done anything with him.
Yeah, even Bendis took a swing in Young Justice and tried to turn him into his own hero, and
mixed results.
Yeah, that got he by the end of the series he was back to just being Robin again. So
yeah.
Or Red Robin, sorry. There's a huge difference.
And Grayson and Todd are both iconic and evolved into their own separate characters that are really more known than their Robin personas. I would say at this point in the year 2021, more people know Dick Grayson as Nightwing and Jason Todd as Red Hood than as Robin.
Yeah, I mean, so Tim Drake also just had that unfortunate sort of thing. He was Robin in a time where like comic books were sort of in a lull.
Yeah.
So like you had people who read when Dick was Robin and when Jason was Robin, and then I'm not saying not a ton because people obviously like Batman and Superman were still the biggest comics in comics at that time, but then you sort of got to the resurgence, and that's right around when Grant Morrison took over and created Damian Wayne, and then Damian Wayne has just been Robin for the past 16 years, something like that. It's been a really long time.
So Tim has always just been, there.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because Tim multiple times has sort of been touted as the only person who could feasibly take over as Batman and do as good a job as Bruce Wayne does.
But what about the next Batman?
Listen, we'll get to that. But any other TV news? I feel like there was one other thing. Oh,
the Sandman cast, the big one. What people have been waiting for a while now.
I didn't recognize anyone on the cast list.
Not even Gwendolyn Christie?
No. I'm like woefully uninformed about people in pop culture.
That's fair. I'm kind of uninformed too, but I did recognize Gwendolyn Christie because Star Wars. She was Captain Phasma, and she was also
oh, that really good character that was properly utilized.
Yes, of course. I believe she was also Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones, but I'm not sure if you follow that either.
I was gonna watch it. when it ended, and then it
Yep.
ended, and I heard such horrible things about the ending that I didn't really feel like watching it. I'll probably get around to it eventually, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Watching 8 seasons of TV to be disappointed just
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't seem like a great use of my time. Not that I use my time well for the most part anyway, but
Are you talking about reading comic books all day only to talk about them every now and again is not a perfect use of your time?
listen,
Because that's
it's
about as
it's
what I do with
definitely
mine.
not a perfect use of my time. I could be productive. I took today off work just so I could read comics to be ready for this podcast that no one watches. Like, right? So,
Fantastic.
yeah, exactly. It's great, but
But anyways,
yeah,
brief background. Sandman is coming to Netflix. Neil Gaiman's Sandman is it's one of those series that needs no introduction. It's one of the most famous comics to come out of DC/Vertigo, and it's been in development hell for a very long time because Neil Gaiman, the author, has been very adamant about putting Sandman
a high
to screen.
caliber. Just
Yes, not that he was against it, because he wasn't. It was just he would look at a script, and if he didn't like the script, it wasn't going to be made. And that's why a Sandman movie had never happened. In his words, I would rather there be no Sandman movie than a bad Sandman movie, which I can respect
yeah, imagine if they released Sandman and it was just Justice League.
that.
Like that would suck.
Oh yeah.
So, and I know people have a pretty. I unfortunately haven't read any of it yet, uh, for no real
Well,
reason. I just I mean it's not on the DC app, which is probably the biggest reason because there's a
yeah. I mean,
lot of it, and collecting
I'm
all of
sure
it
they'll be
is
putting it on to coincide with the show, especially now that it became DC Universe Infinite and is adding, Vertigo things.
yeah when they added so DC such goofiness. Doomsday Clock is on their front page, but Watchmen isn't on the app. But V for
Before
Vendetta
Watchmen,
is.
the entire event is on the app, but initial Watchmen is not.
Yep, and Lucifer is on there, but the parent series Sandman isn't. So
At least, like I said earlier, at least they have a pseudo reason for Sandman because I think they're just waiting to drop it with the show.
yeah,
Watchmen, I couldn't hope to explain.
no, unless we're gonna see a fucking Watchmen movie announcement,
Yeah.
but I doubt it. But
Anywho, the cast of Sandman. Here we are. We don't have a full cast. This is only what Netflix decided to tease us with, but we do have a couple of big names. We mentioned earlier Gwendolyn Christie. Her role is we'll get to that, just because it'd be weird to start with her role, in my humble opinion.
sure.
So the first role is the Lord of Dreams himself, Morpheus. We have Tom Sturridge is going to be Dream of the Endless. Afterwards, we have Vivian Achampong. My apologies for mispronouncing that if I did. Who will be playing Lucian, the librarian of the dreaming, and this is a notable gender flip. One of two notable gender flips of the work, which is honestly fine. These characters are dreams. They have no
They can be
inherent
whatever.
form. Yeah, exactly. And again, as long as the portrayal is good and the character is good, I see zero problem with it.
Nothing wrong with a little gender bending.
Exactly.
It's gonna infuriate someone.
Oh, Next we have. This list is a little awkward. I'm sorry. Boyd Holbrook will be playing the Corinthian, who is a prominent antagonist in the series. He is a nightmare that was developed by Dream, but then went to do off of his own things and not act of the purpose of a nightmare.
What a dick.
People who know the Corinthian know him for his lack of eyes, as they're just mouths of teeth. I won't.
That's some Junji Ito shit.
Yeah, it is. Really looking forward to that. Charles Dance is playing Roderick Burgess, who two fans of the comic will know as the man who imprisoned Dream for 80 years, or a century, as it will be in the Netflix show.
Sure.
And
nice round number.
he was trying to capture Death of the Endless, who notably had not been cast, or at least obviously had not been shown.
Yeah.
So really curious to see who'd be playing her. Cain and Abel have been cast.
Yep. A few of the Sandman characters popped into the Swamp Thing, the Nancy Collins part that I read. So, and
Asim Chaudhry and Sanjeev Bhaskar will be playing Cain and Abel, whom you know the story of Cain and Abel, you know.
Yeah.
And lastly, Gwendolyn Christie will be playing Lucifer. The second notable gender flip. Lucifer, the Lord of Hell, is to be played by Gwendolyn Christie.
Which I think I'm perfectly fine with, especially because we've had, especially it was also on Netflix, we had the Lucifer adaptation, which was a super loose adaptation.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of got like this dude version of Lucifer. You can watch 6 seasons of it. I believe it ends soon. I don't think that it's fully over. I don't know. One of our friends is obsessed with it, so we could probably find out pretty easily.
And one thing I want to make note, just because I'm looking at their publicity photos right here. Tom Sturridge, the man playing Dream, looks a lot like Sandman's creator Neil Gaiman, albeit younger. So that was most certainly done on purpose. And Gwendolyn Christie in this particular photo also looks a lot like Lucifer did in his debut appearance, who was specifically based off of David Bowie.
All right, I'm here for it.
Yep, we still don't have a release date for Netflix's Sandman, but I'm sure it will be this year.
Any other notable character exceptions?
Character exceptions?
Other than Death from that
John.
list?
John Constantine, other members of the Endless, Death, and Desire in particular. Because I believe they're only covering the first 2 or 3 story arcs, similar to what was covered in the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the last ones that they would truly need to cast would be that people would be truly interested in, at least, would be the other members of the Endless.
Gotcha.
So
makes sense.
We'll see that when we get there.
Good stuff. I'm excited. Another sort of thing that I'll throw out there that won't happen, but Netflix currently has Lucifer as a show. It currently has Sandman as a show coming out, and it also has Lock and Key as a show. And as we know, DC is doing a Sandman Lock and Key crossover in the comic books. It would be kind of interesting to see Netflix sort of adapt that, but I doubt that. But it would be pretty.
Well, hey, we never know. See where it is a couple years down the line.
Neil Gaiman clearly greenlit it at least one time, so
yeah.
maybe we'll see it again in some...
Neil, if you're listening, let us know.
Yeah. If Neil Gaiman happens upon this podcast, definitely let us know how you feel about it.
Hey, you never know. He's pretty active with fans on Twitter.
A Sandman Lock and Key Netflix crossover. Let us know your thoughts, Neil Gaiman, for sure. All right, let's get into the meat of it. The thing we're both super excited about. I'm super excited about it. It's DC Future State.
It's time, boys and girls.
All right, what have you read? What's your favorite book so far? What's your least favorite book? What's going
all right, so far what I've read.
Or I should say, what's your least and best favorite story? Because a lot of these books have 2 to 3 stories in them, and some of them are way better than others.
Yeah. I'll start with my least favorite first. I have a couple more that I have to get into, so I haven't read everything that I have access to yet. The Knights of Arkham did not do it for me.
That was at the back of the first...
yeah, that was Batman? The backup of one of the backups in the first next Batman. That one didn't do it for me.
Gotcha. Who are the characters in that one? Refresh me. I've read all of them, so my mind gets a little muddled.
It's a little like freedom fighter group led by Astrid Arkham and a couple of other Arkham Asylum.
It's a bunch of the Batman villains, right? But they're working against the Magistrate because the Magistrate is the fucking worst.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
And it's like, it just seems like the B-tier squad of, the Arkham Freedom Force.
Conceptually, I liked it, but I just told you that I couldn't even really remember who it was, so that
Yeah,
probably speaks
so that one
volumes to how
didn't
I feel
that one
about
didn't
it.
really do it for me, and it seems like it didn't really do it for you either.
Yeah, for sure. There were a few backup stories that didn't totally do it for me, but they're not done yet. So I want to preface this by
Exactly. We
saying
can't
that like
fully judge a product until it's done, but
some of these could end up being way better than they were initially. Stories that I wasn't super here for. Um, the Green Lantern book didn't do it for me. I liked the Jessica Cruz story a lot. But the Guy Gardner and the John Stewart part were sort of in general what they were doing with the Green Lantern Corps wasn't. I'm not like super happy with it. Um, they destroyed the Green Lantern Corps. Basically, the battery is gone, and none of them can use their rings.
all right. So how are they doing anything?
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of why like conception like so the books themselves like they're not bad. And again, like I said, I really like the Jessica Cruz backup story for Green Lantern. Um, but it's a little weird that I'm reading a Green Lantern book where no one can use a power ring.
Yeah,
That I don't want to say
my
there's like a
Green
dumb
Lantern book doesn't
criticism.
actually have Green Lanterns in it.
Yeah, it's a Green Lantern with former Green Lanterns. Like, okay, fair. What other stories did I think were? Legion of Superheroes. We talked about this earlier. I couldn't even finish the book. But
Yep.
I've never been a fan of the Legion, and this
It's
just
weird. I've been a fan. I shouldn't say I've been a fan. The Legion of Superheroes to me is cool as a concept. Other than that, I just every time I've tried to get into them, I just couldn't. There's too
yeah.
many
I
of
don't
them,
know. I feel like
and most of them are uninteresting.
for
Like
me,
the poster children of the Legion, I like Saturn Girl, Brainiac 5, etc. Though
yeah.
like them I like, but the rest of them, yeah.
For me, I feel like the problem is the Legion of Superheroes sort of embodies everything that I don't like about old comic books, with like these really super specific power sets and like goofy ass costumes and really
Yep.
dumb names. And I don't know. Whoever likes the Legion, feel free. I maybe there's some Legion stories that'll definitely change my mind about the Legion, but
Uh,
it
the Great Darkness Saga is the one that everyone's gonna point you to, so I'll save them the trouble.
all right.
Which is really good, and I'm not going to pretend that it's not. But
Yeah.
it's a diamond in the rough,
The Legion
in my
just doesn't
opinion.
do it for me. So that book
Yeah.
definitely disappointed. Or I shouldn't say disappointed. I didn't have any hopes for it, and then it delivered on me not having any hope for it. The Flash, they killed Jay Garrick, so that bummed me out. And then
When I was reading Future State Flash, I just thought, man,
that's
this
another.
guy can't catch a break.
Well, it's like yeah. First of all, poor Wally West, but that was another book. It's the same problem as the Green Lanterns. None of the Flashes are flashes. They don't flash.
Yeah.
They stand still or run at normal speed or have a heart
I
attack
thought it was
because
kind
they're
of cool to
old.
see Avery, because she doesn't pop up all the time.
Yeah, I enjoyed. So the Suicide Squad book had like an off-color speedster in it, Bolt, who I really liked.
Yep.
Like that was super interesting. Let me just make sure there's no other stories that I was sort of like meh. Um, the Black Racer I felt like was a mediocre story. That was the backup for Worlds of War. That was one of the backups. So far,
Yep.
the Guardian and the Mister Miracle stories haven't done it for me, but those feel like ones that when they're done, like the whole Bottle City
Yeah.
of Metropolis thing feels like once it's complete, that's a story that feels like it needs to be done for me to fully leverage my opinion on it.
Yeah, I actually liked that. Like the main story, the Superman in Metropolis. I actually enjoyed that more than I thought I was going to.
Me too, because like Jonathan Kent for me, he's like a super son. He doesn't have a ton of responsibility. He's
Yeah.
he's just like this kid who is part Superman, and he sort of has to live with that. And he has banter with Damian Wayne, and
Yep.
seeing him sort of adopt the Superman role and sort of he has to do what he thinks is right, and seeing everyone sort of hate him for it, including his own uh, cousin Kara, as well as some other members of the League. As you see throughout different stories, a lot of people sort of talk about how they don't like how he did things. Connor Kent, for example, or no,
Yeah.
Brainiac 7 in Suicide Squad tells Connor Kent that he doesn't like what Jonathan did, whatever. But I think that story has a lot of places to go. That was one that I thought was really cool. Also, the art was good. A lot of these had really cool art. Kara Zor-El, the Superwoman
Yep.
book, the art in this was really cool. Um, the whole aesthetic is sort of like a fairy tale, like a Disney fairy
Okay.
tale, with sort of like watercolor colors. It's a really cool aesthetic. Like even her her costume looks like Cinderella's ball gown, but with Superman colors. They came up with a wicked cool aesthetic for that one. That one, the story was sort of whatever. Um, I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was good. I want to. That's another book where I think holding a lot of. I mean, just a general disclaimer: holding judgment for the end of these is probably a good idea. But I wanted to talk about Future State.
Yeah. So like in a future episode, our opinions may change for the better or worse when these things are done.
Yeah, but so Kara Zor-El, Superwoman, super duper cool art direction. I'm super excited on that one. Even if the story was weird, I opened the book and I was like, this is weird, and then like I finished all whatever 24 pages of it, and I was like, I'm super here for this art. I'm really here for it. I like the art
Yeah.
design, the character design. It's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of like sort of pseudo mythology going on with these sort of fox alien god people.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's
I
some
wasn't
cool
able to
stuff.
read that one, so
Did you get Aquaman?
I didn't. Did you?
I just read it earlier. Considering, so you read Justice League, right?
Yes.
I liked Aquawoman in that, and Aquaman deals with her when she's like a kid, as well as
All right,
Black
so she's a
Manta's
little
son.
younger in the Aquaman title.
Yeah, in the Aquaman title, she looks like she's probably like 12 or 14.
Okay.
They have a fetish for cutting off aqua person limbs. They cut off Aquaman's hand, and in Aquaman, Aquawoman cuts off her own foot.
Dear.
Yeah, but any future state titles that you read that you didn't think you would like, or that you didn't particularly care for, that you ended up liking a lot, or that at least very least surprised you.
Surprised me.
In terms of how
Actually,
much
the
you liked
Mr.
it.
Miracle one.
Mr. Miracle
I know
one's
it's a backup
cool.
story, but being like a successor character. Not that I had low expectations, I just didn't know what to expect, and I thought it was a pleasant surprise to see the Shiloh Norman.
Mr. Miracle's cool, just in general.
Mm.
Especially because his story goes throughout like two different books, right? He's the backup for Superman of Metropolis and Superman World at War.
Yep.
He's in both. Worlds of War was one where I wasn't. So like the first story about Clark Kent was clearly just setup, and that was fine because it was good setup. But then the Midnighter and the Mister Miracle backup stories were both awesome. I loved the Midnighter story.
See, I have that in my stack, but I wasn't able to get to that before we started recording. So I will be getting to that later tonight.
Yeah, that
the Midnighter is cool, just in general, because I've been pining for. So DC owns a lot of extra companies and imprints, and I've been pining for them to use them. One of them being Wildstorm, which Midnighter is from. They're doing it more with Grifter. I just want them to use more Wildstorm characters, and I'm glad that they're finally doing it.
Oh, you didn't get to the Grifter backup story, did you?
I don't have what it's in.
No, that's Dark Detective 1.
Yep, I don't have that.
The Grifter was... So, for me, a lot of the backup stories ended up shining through, but books that sort of surprised me with how much I really liked them. Future State Catwoman. I don't give a shit about Catwoman. That book was really cool. And sort of the whole Batverse sort of focused in a singular time period-ish, where like all the characters are dealing with this magistrate problem. I think that was a good call. Even though, generally speaking, stories like that don't pique my interest a lot, some of the individual stories, Catwoman, like I said, Harley Quinn, a character who I generally don't like, her book was awesome.
Actually, yes, I agree a lot. I'm glad you brought that up because I had completely forgotten about it. I picked up the Future State Harley Quinn on a whim. I knew you got it because you got like all of the entire lineup. but I was pleasantly surprised because, like you, I don't care about Harley Quinn. I tend to not care about the Bat family in general, but I really liked the Harley Quinn story. I really liked Scarecrow's role in that.
Scarecrow's role is really cool, and I think it's just I I like Harley Quinn when they use her doctorate, right? Like
Yeah,
when she's a doctor and a psychologist and she sort of dissects all of the crazy shit that happens in Gotham and all the crazy people that she's around. You know, that stuff always interests me more than the sort of meme with a big hammer sort of Deadpool foil character that she can
yeah,
be. And I'm not saying that's what she always is, because clearly sometimes she's not. Otherwise, there wouldn't be stories with her in it that I enjoy. And
yeah. But that is the main incarnation of Harley Quinn, and
I'm
no one's gonna pretend that it isn't.
yeah, and then you come out here with this Harley Quinn book, which first of all got the best artist in comics as its B cover artist in Gary Frank, Brad Anderson duo teaming up for the cover, which was
Yep.
phenomenal. But then the interior art is also really really good. And
I
then
I liked the manga aesthetic to it.
yeah, yeah, I'm a fucking weeb, and it resonated. I was super here like that. Harley Quinn came out of nowhere and is probably one of my favorite books in the lineup.
Yeah.
Uh, Super weird. I don't know. And then another character that heinously I don't care a ton for is Batman. But Dark Detective has been so good. And this sparks joy, especially for me because so the team that's doing Dark Detective now is the team that was doing Wonder Woman before Future State, and they were doing a
Oh,
really good job
Tamaki
on
and
yeah
the other one.
the Tamaki. It's Tamaki and Mora, that duo, and they are picking up Detective Comics in Infinite Frontier. So
Ooh.
the fact that they're doing a good job with Batman in Dark Detective Future State makes me really hopeful that like maybe they can change my mind. Maybe they'll make me a Batman fan like through and through. Maybe I'll pick up Tamaki's Detective Comics and it'll just blow me away
Yep.
because the Dark Detective has been awesome. Dark Detective also had two really good backup stories in Grifter and Red Hood. The Red Hood one was not as good as the Grifter one, but it was still good. Like the Dark Detective books through and through were probably the ones that I thought were the ones with backup stories where like reading the whole book I was like this whole book is good. um Same with the Justice League. The Justice League Dark backup was really good.
I didn't get to the dark backup yet, but I did read the actual Justice League book itself, and I liked it a lot.
I'm
I've always liked team books, the Justice League themselves being a personal favorite of mine, and I like all of the members of the Future State Justice League,
Me
and
too.
seeing the Hyper Clan is really cool as a callback to Grant Morrison's iconic JLA run.
Yeah, I mean, I also just so I'm sort of the opposite of you. In general, I don't particularly like team books because they have a propensity for wasting characters sometimes. But
Fully agree.
this book being sort of like a it's only two issues and they know it's only two issues and it's good. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's just good. It's like it's a good first issue that feels like it can be concluded in one more issue, and it's got good characters in it. An aged Aquawoman is cool, and I'd bet pretty much anything that in the near future, uh, Aquawoman is gonna get artificially aged up, and she's probably gonna have her own book if she's popular. Um, Same with a
What are
bunch of
your
these
thoughts on
characters.
Future State Flash? Not the book, the character.
Um,
Jess Chambers.
they were interesting. I I don't have a lot of exposure to sort of the non-binary thing,
Yep.
and so but I liked it. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
liked it too. I
It's
was fine
super
with it.
simple. Like I don't know. That's it.
I like their design a lot.
They're a cool character. I'm generally not a fan of the mask aesthetic. I hate the new Red Hood mask,
I
and
hate the new Red Hood mask too.
I sort of don't like the Flash mask either. But I like or their costume design. I like the white hair. I also like that
Same.
they're just like kind of friends with like the Flash and Aquaman in general. You don't really think of those two as like homies.
Yeah,
But then
exactly. Because
Aquawoman and the
Barry Allen
Flash.
is Barry Allen and Arthur Curry is Arthur Curry.
Yeah, but then you've got Arthur Curry's daughter and the Flash just kind of hanging out, especially under like the Justice League's new guidelines, how they're not supposed to sort of interact with each other
Yeah,
in an
in like a
informal
casual
setting.
setting.
Yeah. So it was cool to see them just sort of breaking the rules.
Yeah.
And I'm like
How was Teen Titans?
Teen Titans. I did not get. I don't know if Teen Titans is out yet. Did I miss a book? I'm gonna lose my mind. I did not read Teen Titans. I read Suicide Squad. That was cool.
I believe Teen Titans is out.
Ugh, I'm gonna have to go fight my local comic shop.
Oh yeah, yes it is out.
Oh, great. Well, I'll have to buy that off eBay because I didn't. That's the only book then in Future State that I haven't read so far.
Yeah, it came out January 12th.
All right. Well, Suicide Squad had a Black Adam backup. The Shazamly and Black Adam sort of strike a chord with me. I don't know why, but I like them. The Black Adam backup was okay. That one was a little bit of a letdown. The Suicide Squad, the actual story for the Suicide Squad is pretty interesting and pretty cool. Amanda Waller takes her Suicide Squad and escapes to Earth 3 and has the Suicide Squad kill the
Crime Syndicate.
The Crime Syndicate. Yeah.
Does it work?
they're so at the end of the book she reveals that she's keeping them dead in stasis pods and that they have a Black Lantern ring with which to control them if need be.
That's cute.
Super cool. Also, Suicide Squad Future State is sort of a little preview for the upcoming Suicide Squad book. Because I read the solicits for Suicide Squad 2, which comes out in April.
Yep.
Connor Kent is part of the Suicide Squad, the half Lex Luthor, half Clark Kent clone version of Superboy.
Is he part of the Suicide Squad in Future State or
in both?
Oh, cool.
So in this, it's in the future, it's Future State, so they're sort of taking what's going to happen in Suicide Squad and sort of proactively doing it in here. So the Suicide Squad includes Connor Kent, the 12th iteration of Clayface, who can barely keep himself together. A couple of other characters. Like I said, Bolt is their version of the Flash. They're called the Justice Squad, is what they call themselves. It's an interesting book, and then John Cena comes over. The very end of the book is Peacemaker showing up, and they're like, we have to drag Amanda Waller back to Earth, whatever.
Oh man, do I say it?
Do it.
Did they see him?
No, the panel was just blank, actually. They have to tell you that Peacemaker's in it.
Oh, okay.
Obviously. Good. What else are we looking at for some Future State goodness? Immortal Wonder Woman. Did you get to read that?
I did not. How was it?
Okay, so
that one I was really curious about because I know all of the Future State books take place at varying points in time, but I believe Immortal Wonder Woman takes place at the farthest at the end of time.
Yeah, Wonder Woman takes place at the end of time. This is also the writer on this is also going to be doing Wonder Woman after Future State. So this writer is going to be the one who's tackling the God Sphere and Wonder Woman's adventures in that sphere of existence. So this is like a nice preview, just like the Tamaki detective book.
I believe most of the teams are actually going to be on these books.
A lot of them are. A lot of them are moving forward.
Because 5G wasn't actually canceled.
Teehee. Super weird how after these 2 issues of Future State, a bunch of books are getting 10-issue series written by the same creative teams. Isn't that weird?
It's almost like they planned this for a year.
Crazy. But you've got, so it's at the end of time, and sort of everything is crumbling. The Themyscirans are still on Earth, and they're still hidden. But Darkseid, I'm sort of having trouble remembering. This one came out not this most recent Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. But so you see Clark Kent, for starters. He's still alive. And I don't know if you know the old Shazam aesthetic where he's got sort of or the Power Girl aesthetic where they've got the rope that ties their cape on. And so sort of like over one shoulder is like the rope tie, and then it sort of hangs over them.
I can't picture it. I'm sure if I saw it, I would know, but I can't like picture it.
Old Clark Kent has that aesthetic. Darkseid comes to Themyscira to conquer Earth finally after all of time, because obviously he's a
Good.
god. Um, he meets Superman halfway there, and he sort of drops Superman to Earth. And so Diana's trying to get the Themyscirans to like resolve things peacefully because that's what she's supposed to do. That's Wonder Woman's deal.
Yep.
But then Darkseid comes to Themyscira, and they have to sort of duke it out. Um, but the sort of introductory pages were sort of the most impactful to me. It was so she goes to the Batcave in like a destroyed Gotham at the end of time, and she goes down into the Batcave and she picks up Bruce's utility belt. And so you see on the cover she's wearing it, and people are like, "Why does she have Batman's utility belt? Like, what's that for?"
Yeah, I remember talking about that.
And it's basically so that she can sort of keep her connection to him, one of her best friends in life.
Yep.
Um, and I thought that was like a cute touch because there's the Trinity. Superman's still alive, Wonder Woman's still alive, and she's sort of trying to keep Batman alive in her own way by keeping his
Yeah.
utility belt with her. I'm listen. I'd be super hype if she pulls some shit out of there and starts using some Batman gadgets, but I'm super okay with it just being sort of a sentimental thing.
The lasso rang.
Yeah, right. Like some fucking smoke bombs in Darkseid's face, and then she lassos
Yep.
him. Like that would be awesome. But the sentimental value it was palpable and it felt strong. It was cool, and I
Hmm.
enjoy that sort of connection. It's also sort of like one of those, how like you kind of wonder like why Wonder Woman and Batman were never a thing, and it kind of rings of a deeper connection that you never really get to see between the two of them.
Yeah, because like you've seen how Superman has such a huge connection to both of them.
Yeah,
Uh,
you've had
he had
Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, Superman series
yeah.
constantly over the last decades that they've had comic books. But
There was a mini series.
yeah, Brave
There
and the
was a Brave
Bold,
and the Bold.
it
Yeah,
wasn't good.
with the what was it, the Celtic gods or whatever.
It was something. I don't know. I only got to issue 2 because I didn't like it. It was super wordy and the art was mediocre, and I didn't enjoy it. Maybe if I went back and read it now, that I have sort of a broader appreciation of more
Yeah.
different comic book styles, I'd like it. But that was one of my first forays into reading because that was something. So in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, uh, they have a thing, and so I was like, oh, like a Batman Wonder Woman story, like that'd be cool. Like I'm coming off Justice League Unlimited, the show. That's sort of my exposure to DC up to this point. I would be really cool to see them interact, and I was like bummed that it wasn't a thing. But this sort of solidifying their sort of deeper connection that you don't get to see as much was awesome. I think Immortal
Yeah.
Wonder Woman was awesome. I think that one was probably one of my favorites, along with Yara Flor Wonder Woman.
I really liked Yara Flor. So
In every
I
book
like
she's
her
in, I like
design
her.
a lot.
She so she feels, this is like sort of a weird thing to say, but she feels like a Marvel character. In
In what way?
She's sort of lighthearted and
Yeah.
and ideal driven. She feels kind of like a Brian Michael Bendis Spider-Man, where she's like kind of quippy and she's like kind of annoyed by everything,
Yep.
but she also
With
clearly has these strong ideals that she follows.
and
Um,
it's kind of a fun like blip of light in the like depressed, dreary future state.
yeah, Future State in general is pretty depressing. Which I
Yeah.
get, like it's a bunch of number ones, and number ones just in their essence have to set up some kind of conflict. So every number one has to be kind of depressing because
Yeah, but like
they
a
have to
lot of
break something
them.
down to build something up. But like every
Yeah,
Batman book has to do with the Magistrate.
exactly. I was just thinking that every Bat book, which is a good chunk of future state, it's just all about how Gotham is this horrible dystopian, police state.
And like every time Superman shows up, like something horrible happens to him, and he shows
Yeah,
up at like 8 different points in time. And
he can't be the shining beacon of hope when everything terrible has happened
yeah,
to him.
like so Superman Prime is in the Shazam, not the Shazam, the Black Adam backup story, and like
Yep.
he comes out of the sun, and then the seven sins just rip him in half,
Oh, okay. Sure.
and like he heals later, obviously, because he's at the end
Yeah.
of time with Darkseid. But like it's just like Superman just keeps having these terrible garbage happen to him over and over again. It's a little depressing. Whereas
Yeah.
Wonder Woman was just this sort of light, quippy, fun book, which the art was great,
I
the writing
enjoyed
was great.
the visual humor with the ferryman Charon.
Yep. There was a lot in that, so a lot. I think I enjoyed that a lot too because I really like those Percy Jackson books,
Yep.
and this was very reminiscent of them with this like weirdly modern take on the underworld with like the escalators and the sort of
Exactly how Limbo is basically just like a hotel lobby.
yep stuff like that,
Hotel
which
lobby.
is
What am I
super.
saying?
Um,
Airport is what
yeah,
I
an
meant to say.
airport. Because this prompted me to reread some of the Percy Jackson books actually, and sort of their version of the underworld is like to get into the underworld, you go into this building, and you have to pay Charon, and then he takes you into an elevator down to the river Styx, and then he sort of ferries you over, and then you get off, and there's three like lines with like security gates like at TSA, and I thought like that because I enjoyed that. I think that made me enjoy Wonder Woman quite a bit. Not to mention, I love her character design. I picked up 3 copies of her book. Like,
I have two.
yeah, right. Like the cover is phenomenal. She definitely got the best portion of their graphic design with sort of the white border and the green
Yeah.
background. It fits really well. This was a good book, and this is one that she's a character that we know is gonna keep
Oh
appearing.
yeah, she's gonna stick around.
Hopefully this team gets to do more with her because
Yeah.
this was a good book. This is a really good book.
How did you feel
really
about
good character.
How'd you feel about Swamp Thing?
Swamp Thing was one where I initially read it and I was like on it, but the more I think about it, the more in line with his whole character it is. The more in line it feels like Swamp Thing, and the more I think about it, the more I like it. I know you read it. How did you feel about it?
I didn't really follow what was going on.
It was definitely a little confusing.
That was pretty much it. It was weird seeing these different swamp people, and like Alec Holland was more of like a plot point.
Yeah, which is sort of how a lot of his stories are. Sometimes he's a main focus, and sometimes he's just sort of this tertiary character and a vehicle for telling these other ridiculous stories. But like the Swamp Thing book was cool because it really illustrates one of the biggest sort of points in Swamp Thing's character, which is that he's just a lonely, confused creature.
Yeah.
And so he's at the end. He's not at the end of time, but he's like centuries forward. Like humanity is pretty much all died out, but he's still a person. Even though he's got this massive connection to the green and he's not human, he's still Alec Holland. He's still a person in his brain. He still has human brain.
Yeah.
Or human thought processes. So he creates these sort of artificial humans that function almost entirely like humans. So you know how there was those splash pages where it's sort of like an organ and it talks about how he created it?
Yes.
So those were sort of him giving you more detailed scientific insight into how he created his fake humans out of plants and how they function exactly like humans. Because in the super old Swamp Thing stories, when they cut him open, they open him up and they find that there's like organs and stuff.
As opposed to just swamp.
But they're made of plant because so he's like a conscious plant who thinks he's a person. So his insides he subconsciously creates human bits. And so then in the Future State book he consciously creates these sort of humanoid plants, all who have these very distinct yet artificial personalities that he gives them.
Yep.
Which I think is also super interesting because there's that one, I can't remember what color he is, but he's just like adamantly against everything Swamp Thing says.
I think that was like the tealish one.
Yeah, and he's sort of like this constant questioning force who's just always like, are we sure that this dude knows what the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah,
what is he looking for? Humans don't exist. And then at the end, obviously, they find the person who's like, there's a colony of us. We don't know what the fuck to do. We need your help. So that was a book that aged well in my mind, for sure. I like that one.
Let's see. Before we get to the big one, let's do a real quick. What were your thoughts on some of the leftover titles that we haven't talked about yet? Future State, Robin Eternal.
Okay, so we earlier when we were talking about TV discussed how much I like Tim Drake. Well, Robin
Yep.
Eternal is Tim Drake.
Okay.
It's a cool book. Again, it takes place in Magistrate times, although it takes place sort of out of sync with the Batgirl backup story from Dark Detective 2. Or not Dark Detective, Next Batman 2. Next Batman 2 has a Batgirl backup where Cassandra Cain goes to prison and she meets Spoiler in there. And Spoiler's part of the Resistance. And there's this whole conflict in there. But in Robin Eternal, Spoiler is out and she's helping Robin sort of deal with the Magistrate. All of the Bat books have the same general plot of them dealing with the Magistrate in X, Y, or Z different
the
way.
tyranny of the Magistrate.
Yeah, but the Robin Eternal one was cool because he's sort of the only character who sort of didn't change. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, every other character was sort of forced to be different, and Tim Drake is sort of holding down and holding to who he was before the Magistrate took over. I think it was a good book. I like Tim Drake. Let me check if there was a backup story. No, that one didn't have a backup story. I like Tim Drake. I like Spoiler. I like the book. It was good. For the most part, Future State has been pretty good for me. I've been enjoying it a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I've been enjoying it as well. I wish some of them were a little more than 2 issues, maybe 3 or 4. But
yeah, but then we'd be fucking stuck in April with Future State, and people would be throwing hissy fits for years to come that there were 4 months where they weren't getting their steady drip of detective every 2 weeks.
It's true.
Let's see. Go in alphabetical order, and I could go through books that I don't think I talked about. Batman, Superman. This is Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. This is right when the Magistrate starts, I believe, or right around that time. Yeah, it's right when the Magistrate starts because the basic premise of the book is a dangerous drug shows up in Metropolis, and it's this sort of unit that you put on your neck, and it changes your face into an animal face.
Okay.
But one of the side effects is that, like, the genetics, if you take the thing off, it's supposed to just turn off, and it's supposed to turn your head back to normal. But sometimes the genetic modification doesn't fully get removed. And so the basic premise is Superman goes to traces the drug to Gotham. He meets Batman. Batman's like, you can't have a cape here. Please stop being so blatant and obvious.
And because the Magistrate is having a genocide of the masks.
Of the masks, yeah. And so they track the drug to this guy who's a professor in a university, and basically the book ends with Superman beating up a shit ton of robots while Batman looks around, and then everything goes deadly quiet, and then Batman's like, that's when I knew something went wrong, and then the guy who was making the drug stabs Superman with a kryptonite knife.
Oof.
Like I said, Superman just gets a fucking raw deal in this one. It's brutal. He gets stabbed and fucked up in like every book that he's in. It was pretty cool. This is one where I'm excited to see where it's going, but it didn't stand out to me. It was nice to just see
up a little bit.
Classic Batman, Superman shenanigans. That was nice.
Backing up a little bit, because when we were talking about Immortal Wonder Woman before, what did you think of the Nubia backstory?
It was fine. I didn't feel strongly one way or another about it. That's one where I'm hoping that the second issue really seals it for me. I do like that she's sort of struggling to make everyone else understand that she's Wonder Woman now, that she is Wonder Woman, not Diana.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one didn't particularly stand out to me.
Now, I didn't read that quite yet. In the Nubia era, is there any conflict with Yara?
No.
As we have 2 Wonder Women around?
No, Yara Fleur doesn't show up in Nubia's book.
Okay.
Or she doesn't show up in the Immortal Wonder Woman book at all. Let me see, what else? Catwoman. Like I said, that was like a dark horse where I don't care about Catwoman, but that book was really cool. It's a train heist to free some of the Magistrate's captives that can help the Resistance, and I believe one of the things on there is Bruce Wayne's body. I'm sure that the plot twist will be that it's not Bruce Wayne's body, though, because he's obviously a dark detective. The Flash, we talked about Green Lantern, Harley Quinn, Immortal Wonder Woman, Justice League, we talked about Kara, Legion, Next Batman. That's a weird one that I can't believe we haven't talked about yet.
See, I was intentionally not talking about that one. I figured we would save that one for last.
We can leave that one for last, then. Nightwing. Awesome. Nightwing is dope. Unfortunately, it's not by Tom Taylor. Since we know Tom Taylor's picking up Nightwing, it would have been cool if I was enjoying
To get a
his
little
Nightwing
teaser.
already. But
Yeah.
Nightwing is super cool. He's sort of the leader of the Resistance, and he meets up with the next Batman.
Ooh.
And he's sort of based out of Arkham. It's a cool little book. I would highly recommend that one. Shazam. That was fine. Um, his teammates are weirded out because Billy Batson hasn't turned back from Shazam into Billy Batson in a long time. And then at the end, you find out the reason is that they split. So Billy Batson is in hell, and Shazam is on the surface dealing with the problems of the world.
Oh, rad. We're just going to condemn a child to hell. Although I guess he'd be an adult at that point.
It was his own choice. I think he's a teenager.
All right.
But he makes the choice consciously, so it's not like extra horrible, but it is a little strange.
How about Superman, Wonder Woman?
First, I have Superman versus Imperious Lex. I just read that. Bones of a Good Story. This is also the only book that runs past the end of Future State. Book 3 comes out on March 30th, which is a little weird.
Yeah, the end of March, which is kind of weird.
It's a whole month after every other Future State book ends.
Yeah.
It's a cool book. Lex Luthor has a planet called Lexor.
Of course.
And he's basically created this dictatorship utopia where he is sending these hyper efficient robots out to different planets in the Outer Ring, killing all the people there and robbing them of their resources and bringing them back to Lexar. And so Superman stops him.
Yep.
And
Clark or Jonathan?
Clark. And sort of the whole premise of the book is Lex is attempting to join this sort of planetary federation. It's sort of like you know how the Legion has like this huge like sort of peace utopia alliance between all the planets. This is sort of like the alpha version of that, where like Lois Lane is the representative of Earth, for example. And he's trying to join that, and so the whole book is Superman explaining why he believes Lex Luthor is trying to. So he goes to Lex Luthor's planet, he kills all the robots, and then he leaves. And so Lex's planet will go totally hungry and explode, and everything bad will happen if they don't get any help from the other planets. And so the end of the book is sort of like that stand-up-ish Superman way, where he convinces Lois to give him a chance and to bring him into the fold so that they can help all the people on his planet. But I'm fairly certain that book 2 and 3 will be about Lex Luthor trying to kill Superman because
why would it not be?
Yeah, it's Lex Luthor. Like,
yeah.
Superman, Wonder Woman, a really cool cross between ancient Greek sort of myth and Superman lore. So basically they wake up and there's two suns in the sky. There's like our regular sun, and there's one of the Superman villains that's like a giant synthetic sun. And then Wonder Woman is like chilling with the moon and the sun, like the avatars of the moon and the sun on Earth. And the sun god looks up and he's like, why the fuck are there two suns? So he flies up there, and so they're being basically three solar entities in the sky.
Is it the Kryptonian sun god? Is it Rao?
No, it's the Greek sun god.
All right.
One of them. There's
Helios
like
or whatever?
It's not Helios, but there's a bunch of them. Greece had like a bunch of gods that overlapped. But he goes into the sky and he starts heating up the planet. And so basically their only option is to sort of shut both of them down. And it's pretty interesting. You have Yara Flor also just at the beginning. She sort of deals out some justice against a large corporation bigwig who's escaping a protest. It was good. All of the books with Yara Flor in it were good.
Yeah. It's very clear that this is the character they want to stick around.
She should be the character that sticks around. So far, she's my favorite of the new creations. Aquawoman is also pretty high on that list. I'd like to see more of her.
Yep.
The next Batman is fine. I don't want that to sound negative because it's not like I dislike him.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the
Yeah, because we can get into that now. I believe that's everything.
Yeah, I think that's the last one
that I didn't get apparently.
Darn it!
Furious.
Damn you, LCS! You failed us.
But yeah, let's talk about next Batman.
All right, the big one. The
Those big
aside from
honking
Yara
books.
Flor, probably
Their main focus
yeah,
going forward for sure.
yeah, with Future State. Uh, Bruce Wayne is gone. Is he dead? No.
No,
Uh,
that's what Dark
if you can,
Detective is about. But
yeah, exactly. Uh,
he's believed to be dead up
yes.
until I think. Let me look at the books, but I'm pretty sure Next Detective 3 is when they finally meet.
Yep.
If I'm remembering properly. Um, but so yeah, the next Batman. I mean, he's dealing with the magistrate. It's the same as all the other books. Um, I like that he has to kind of balance his double life. Um,
Same. How he has that family drama that Bruce never really had, while also being Batman.
yeah, it's a very Peter Parker-y, where
I guess we'll just casually say the next Batman is Tim Fox.
yep, Lucius Fox's son, correct?
Yep, his other son,
Yep.
along with Luke Fox, aka Batwing from the
Yeah.
New 52.
People, I remember. So when they announced this and everyone saw that Batman was black, they assumed that it was Luke Fox, and so the
Yep.
first appearance of Batwing spiked a ton.
I saw a lot of people thinking it was the Signal as well. I can't think. Duke Thomas.
Yep.
There we go.
But we end up with Tim Fox, an entirely new character, which I like.
Me too.
Entirely new characters are always very interesting because you can do whatever the hell you want with them.
Mm-hmm.
So far, it's pretty good.
Yep.
That's all
I'm enjoying
say.
it. I liked his for lack of a better term, I think he has a little more compassion than Bruce.
Yeah, because so Bruce was sort of always lived. He always cared about Gotham, but he always lived kind of removed from it because he was a rich playboy. Whereas
Exactly.
Tim
Is not.
Fox, it's like the magistrate is ruining his neighborhood, the place where he lives.
Yeah.
People are scared, and also you get a glimpse of the Gotham City Police Department in this book, which is cool.
Mm.
I was a fan of the Gotham Central run, which isn't really like this, but it's nice to see real cops showing up in this. Just to remind you that the magistrate isn't the law. They're like a hired
real
agency.
cops not named Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, there are cops that exist, and they're trying to do their job, but they basically can't because the magistrate is there, or the magistrate. So like in the next Batman, I think it's the second one. Someone just gets straight up fucking murdered, and the magistrate is more involved in trying to chase down Batman as opposed to actually solving the murder.
Or even in the first book when those kids were going to just axe someone in I can't recall the gang's name, but the Banes.
Yep. Yeah. And so the next Batman has a lot of those. So like all the other tertiary or secondary and tertiary Batman books that are in Future State sort of deal with one very specific incident. I like that the next Batman is dealing with it as a whole, which makes sense because it's going to be 4 issues. Like Dark Detective and the next Batman are building most of your narrative for the Magistrate, and then the other titles are sort of filling in blanks.
Yeah, actually, I believe the next Batman is the only one that's going to 4 issues.
No, Dark Detective will be 4.
Oh, it will be 4?
Yep.
All right.
Clearly, Batman's their biggest seller, so they.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, they made 2 4-issue Bat books. Yeah.
Yep.
Because Batman, the Dark Detective, and they're basically following the release schedule of Batman and Detective Comics, where it's every 2 weeks.
It's fine.
That breakneck release pace.
A steady influx of Bat.
Yep. Gotta get that IV of Bat books into the vein. Real. Just deliver it straight in there. No breaks. But yeah, next Batman, awesome. Really good. Especially because I like knowing more. I'm really interested to find out who the fuck Peacemaker 01 is. Maybe if I knew more about Batman, I would already know. But
I mean, I'm familiar enough with the mythology, and I can't peg it.
Yeah, unless it was someone from Tynan's recent run.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would probably be able to
plot
take an
twist.
educated
It's Ghostmaker.
Guess. Yeah, I heard one of our friends say maybe it was Ghostmaker, but because they sort of look a little similar, I guess. But next Batman is pretty interesting. It had really good backup stories. Whereas like Dark Detective, like the Grifter one was really good. The Red Hood one was interesting and it filled in blanks, but I don't think it was exceptionally great.
I liked the Outsiders story a lot.
There was the Outsider story that was cool. Let me take a look at the bottom of these books. We talked about Arkham Knights, how you didn't particularly care for it. I liked it. We'll get it. We're getting the finale to that one. Um,
I believe this upcoming week
yeah,
and
it must be
next Batman
this
3.
upcoming Wednesday. So maybe that one will turn around, and then the book 2 had Batgirl and Gotham City Sirens, both of which were pretty interesting. You had, what was it, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and that droid sort of going around doing their thing.
Being sirens.
Just sort of partying, which was kind of like a nice break from excessive doom and gloom, where they just sort of go to a nightclub. And then you have the Batgirls thing, which we talked about earlier, where Cassie Kane gets put in jail.
Yep.
Yeah,
gets their fun stuff.
Has built a nice has built a nice foundation. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm excited to see some of these characters show up.
Post Infinite Frontier.
Yeah. So before we go, do you any characters that you explicitly want to see more of in Infinite Frontier, or maybe some storylines that you want to see maybe explored more?
The short answer is all of them, because I am a fan of expanding the mythology as much as possible. The long answer is pretty much a lot of the new players in the Justice League team. You mentioned earlier that Andy Curry may get artificially aged if she's popular. I would like to see that stick around, or even just her future state self being displaced and in Infinite Frontier time dealing with her past parents.
I would also, just as an aside, if they don't want to age her, they could change Super Sons to Super Siblings or something and throw her in as a third character if she's popular currently.
They would still have to age her up a little bit.
If they want to age her like a little bit as opposed to aging her to like 25. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Because they aged Jonathan Kent, and now they're de-aging him back to being a Super Son with Damian. So
yeah, exactly.
You know, they can kind of
because everybody hated it.
Yeah, they could do whatever they want. So
yeah,
it would be nice to see her in any age group just show up, especially like no one cares about Aquaman. It's always been that way, and I feel like I haven't heard anything involving Aquaman since, or anything positive, or like people. I haven't heard anyone say like you need to read this run of Aquaman outside of Jeff Johns' run. So it'd be cool to get some more Aqua love in the DC universe.
I don't really feel it's necessary to say, oh, I want Yara Flor to stick around. I want Tim Fox to stick around. They're sticking around. We know they are.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would like to see some of the lesser, like the Future State Teen Titans characters, the Future State Justice League characters, and some of them already have books. You know, the Future State Green Lantern is in Far Sector.
Yep, which I haven't read, but now I want to read because of this. She was cool.
Exactly.
And she's going to be in the upcoming book, right?
Yes.
It's her, Teen Lantern, and Jon Stewart.
Yes. And I was probing around the cover a little more. I did see Kyle Rayner and Guy Gardner there, as well as other alien Green Lanterns whose names escape me.
Guy Gardner.
Yeah, for all of the Guy Gardner fans out there, which I don't know, you might be there.
There must be one of you. you know what character from Future State I don't want them to carry into Infinite Frontier? Guy Gardner.
You want to make something of it? Yes. How about the decontinuation of this character?
Such a douche. But whatever. Yeah, keep going. What else are you looking forward to?
I think the Titans Academy, I think it's called, is going to be an Infinite Frontier series.
Is already confirmed in that one.
Exactly.
I believe we think that might be where the Future State Flash appears.
See, I don't know if that'll be Future State Flash because it's explicitly stated that they come from the multiverse and they had already appeared in their holiday special, but it could be Bolt.
I would be really excited to see Bolt. She's a character that felt unexplored to me. The only thing I've read her in is that one Suicide Squad book, so having her be in more stuff, I would be super excited for that. I'm here the Speedsters especially is a very sausage festy kind of deal. right?
The only female speedsters I can think of are
Jesse Quick.
Avery and Jesse Quick.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell. Well, Liberty Bell is Jesse Quick.
Oh, duh.
Yeah, they're the same person, but different power sets. Because that was something.
But overall, I think every pun intended, the future is bright. Naysayers be damned. Future State, I think, has been mostly delivering.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
gonna say it's been a solid like 70-30. Good.
Listen, I'll never really I mean, I kind of understand, but I'll never really understand the people who are just done with DC because they decided to reboot again. You know what this means? It just means that they have less strings holding them back from telling different stories. And
Exactly.
Future State opens the door for a lot of cool characters and a lot of cool stories. We might even see the seeds of the Magistrate stuff coming forward in the
And
Batman
you know what?
stuff. But maybe
as
they
Death
solve
Metal
it
said,
beforehand.
everything
you know?
counts.
Yep, everything counts. I'm excited to see what this weird double omniverse, two-centered omniverse, like a weird egg where you crack it and there's two yolks.
Yep.
Yeah, the future.
I think it's
going to
be a beautiful mess, and I can't wait for it.
Oh, for sure. Infinite Frontier Zero or what is it? Zero number
It's
1.
0, yeah. Comes out first week of March, I think.
Yep, it's the first book in solicits for March 3rd, I believe. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I hope that Infinite Frontier 1 hits as hard as DC Rebirth did.
Me too.
Because that would be fantastic. And you know what? Even if it doesn't, just the cover alone is showing me that there's characters that I care about that are showing up again, and that's fantastic.
Yep, it reminded me of how much I liked the Rebirth cover. I don't know, I'm just getting good vibes from it.
Yep. All right. I think that should about wrap it up. This one is a lot longer than the first one.
This one's a lot longer than the first one, but you know what? We talked about more, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. So, thanks anyone who watched. If you got all the way to this end, thanks even more.
Yep, we appreciate you.
For sure. Check us out in another 2 weeks. Maybe we can close the book on some Future State titles. And,
while talking about some more stuff that's coming forward.
For sure. Maybe we can talk about WandaVision if this guy catches up in time. Although I think you
do we want to just wait until the season's over before we talk about that?
Yeah, we can do like a WandaVision episode.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. This is Mandentis
Click
Entertainment,
that bell.
And we're signing off.
Yep. See you next time.